KVUE News at 5 starts with breaking news.
Thanks so much for staying with us this afternoon. Austin police say 3 people are dead and several others injured in a shooting at the Target on Research Boulevard near Olin Road in North Austin.
Police say the suspect is now in custody. He's accused of stealing a vehicle from the Target parking lot and then carjacking another vehicle elsewhere after crashing the stolen car. Police say he was quickly tracked down.
That's right. And a short time ago, Police Chief Lisa Davis held a press conference at the Target saying 5 people in total were shot, including a child.
The suspect fled the scene, stole a car from the scene, took that car, wrecked that car, then hijacked another car. We have 3 people that are deceased. This is a very sad day for Austin. It's a very sad day for us all.
And right now we want to bring in KVUE's Malia Masumoto, who's been there since this news broke. Malia, what are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Well, Mark, people have been slowly just now starting to get released from the PetSmart here. This is actually where they took the people who were inside the Target at the time of the shooting. They had moved them to this PetSmart where they were all waiting here. They started slowly trickling out. I just talked to a mom who had her 2 young sons out here. She was inside of the Target when those gunshots happened. Obviously really shaken from this experience. She described to me the moment when that happened. Take a listen to that right now.
I don't know. The first thing I'm worried about, how can I take them, because, you know, I cannot take fast because I know where to go. But have one, the lady, she work in the Target. She help carry one, and I take one and go in the back. So my hand check and my leg check. So that's all. Yeah.
As she said, her legs were shaking. She was nervous. A Target employee really helped her carry one of her sons because she had 2 little ones with her. So obviously it was a lot in that moment. She never expected anything like this to happen. They were just doing their back to school shopping, and actually their car is in the parking lot there. But police said they can't get that for at least 6 hours. Now, she had a lot of things in there, like supplies for her young boys. She said her phone was actually in there too. So she had to use the phone from inside there to call her husband to come pick her up here. But obviously really chaotic scene here with just everyone figuring out what's going on. I know we have other crews that were just talking to a Target employee who had also just come out of this PetSmart here, so we'll have more, but for now that's what I have right here. Reporting live in North Austin, Malia Masumoto, KVUE News.
Malia saying that a lot of people shaken and there's a lot of chaos and unknowns there. We want to bring in KVUE senior reporter Tony Plahetsky, who had been with us during our live coverage as this was all unfolding.
And what we're learning right now is that investigators are doing multiple things. They are interviewing any witness who was at the scene, trying to figure out anything that they may have seen or heard leading into this. In addition to that, they are combing through surveillance video from Target to try to see what visual images may be available for the investigation. So that is a focus right now. And in addition to that, they are also trying to learn everything they can about the suspect. Importantly, the police chief said that the suspect has a mental health history, a documented mental health history. And so that is one thing that they are examining at this time as well, including questions about, given his established mental health history, his ability to acquire a firearm. That is all part of the investigation.
Yeah, Chief Davis also said that he had a rap sheet. That no stranger to law enforcement here.
Correct, and that will all play a part in trying to develop a complete picture of the suspect. And in addition to that, tragically, we know that police also at this time are working to confirm the identity of the victims in this shooting and notify their families as well.
Such a sad situation tonight.
It is indeed.
Tony, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And let's bring it now to KVUE's Darrenisha Heron. She's also been following this developing story. And Darrenisha, walk us through where this all happened and where police finally found the suspect.
Well, Quita, the suspect was able to get quite a distance from the scene. According to Austin police, he started at the Target on Research Boulevard, which is right here in North Austin. That's where he was able to steal a vehicle from the parking lot. Now, he was able to drive at least 21 miles to South Austin. So starting here and going all the way down to South Austin. We don't know his route, but if he took I-35, we know at any time of the day, I-35 is very busy. So he was apprehended here on La Costa Drive. Now, according to Google Maps, I was able to learn that this happened in a neighborhood. in a cul-de-sac area. And according to police, someone saw him get out of the vehicle. We don't know what his mannerism was like or how he acted for them to be able to call police, but we know once police arrived, he was apprehended. Now, again, when I put this distance in, it was 21 miles, but then as of right now, we know it's like high traffic hours, so that's like a 35-minute drive. So that's a long time, high traffic time. And so I'm sure investigators are getting a lot of calls right now with people who have seen what happened with the tips as we speak. Quita and Mark.
I'm sure that they are. Darrenisha Heron, thank you so much. And Austin Mayor Kirk Watson released a statement about today's shooting, writing, quote, "This is a devastating situation, and my heart is with the victims and their families. While this remains an active and ongoing investigation, what I'll say is that this was a sickening, cowardly act of gun violence. I am grateful for the quick response of our APD officers and other first responders and want to thank them for their actions to apprehend the suspect."
Now let's recap what we know. Police say a suspect is in custody after 3 people were shot and killed in the Target parking lot off of Research Boulevard in North Austin.
Now, 2 people died in that parking lot and 1 died at the hospital. Police haven't told us anything about the suspect's motive just yet, and as we learn more, we'll bring you updates here on air and online at KVUE.com. And we begin KVUE News at 6 as we continue to follow breaking news at this hour. Austin police say they have solved the infamous yogurt shop murders.
In 1991, someone killed 4 teenage girls at a yogurt shop in North Austin. Police now say they know who did it, and they say he was a serial killer.
Thank you so much for joining us for KVUE News at 6. I'm Quita Culpepper.
And I'm Mark Mullins. We do have team coverage of this developing news, a huge story. For decades, KVUE's Tony Plahetsky and Judy Maggio have been covering this case.
And Tony, let's start with you really fast. Tell us about the suspect who police are finally naming after 34 long years.
And it's a name that none of us have heard, frankly, until today. His name is Robert Eugene Brashers. He has no known ties to Austin aside from these murders, and he died by suicide in early 1999. That is about 8 years after the crime. I want to tell you that that timing is tragically noteworthy because it also came about 8 months before Austin police charged 4 other men with the murders, cases that ultimately collapsed over the next decade. We have confirmed that Austin police and a law enforcement task force that spent years working on this case believe that they have finally found the killer through what experts call genetic genealogy. This is a new type of DNA testing that has been used to solve cold cases just like this one. And this isn't the only horrific crime the suspect has been linked to. Previously reported by authorities in Missouri connects Brashers to a 1990 murder of a woman in South Carolina. Also a 1997 rape of a 14-year-old girl in Memphis, Tennessee. Then in 1998, a double murder of a mother and daughter in Missouri. So obviously a very violent person. Again, noteworthy that it was not until 2018, years after his death, that he was linked through DNA to these other crimes, and now today to the yogurt shop murders of Austin in December 1991.
And those crimes spanning several states there, Tony.
Several states and decades.
Yeah. Tony, we'll get back to you in just a second, but we do want to bring in Judy Maggio. Judy, you were anchor here at KVUE for many years, covered this case, and you know the background of it. So give us a little background about what this crime was. Take us back to that night.
It was really one of those crimes, the crime that really changed Austin. You know, we all of a sudden felt like a big city with big city crimes. And it was very close to the hearts of many of us who worked here at KVUE because the yogurt shop is really just less than a mile away from here. So we were in there all the time. We knew those girls. We knew Sarah, and we knew Jennifer, and we knew Eliza. So it was heartbreaking, and this is such a relief for those families today. To give you more background, Jennifer and Sarah Harbison, Eliza Thomas, and Amy Ayers, 2 of those young girls were working working at the yogurt shop. That night, it was December 1991. The other two girls, including the younger sister of Jennifer, that was Sarah Harbison, they were just visiting there. Around closing time, a gunman came in, forced the girls into a storage room at the very back of the shop. They were ordered to disrobe. They were bound, and then each was shot in the back of the head. The store and the girls were doused with gasoline. The whole place was set on fire. As I mentioned earlier, this is kind of the crime that Austin felt like it lost its innocence. It's our understanding that the families of the four girls have, of course, been informed of this development. I spoke with one of the dads, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The top city and police leaders plan to inform the public of this in a bit, and we just are very grateful today. You know, that this crime has gotten a lot of national publicity because of the yogurt shop murders on HBO, the documentary. I had the honor of being at that premiere at South by Southwest, and that's when I reconnected with Bob and Pam Ayers, who've been waiting for answers like Eliza Thomas's mom and like Sarah and Jennifer Harbison's mom, and now they have an answer.
It's just so bittersweet because the answer they've been waiting for, there's still nobody that can be punished for this crime. I know. And I know you just spoke with Bob Ayers.
Yes, I did. I had a phone call with Bob Ayers. He was driving home with his wife, Pam. They were in Bryan today because his daughter-in-law and son-in-law were showing horses there. So basically, they wanted to find out all together as a family about this development. So APD brought a group of officers, including the lead investigator of the cold cases crime, and they all sat in a circle and talked about it. And at first, he said they were just silent. They had to let it sink in. And then, of course, there were tears and hugs, and he says they're still processing it. They want to make sure it's 100% too, because, you know, there have been so many false arrests and leads, and it's hard for them to process and believe right now. But it's certainly good news for this community and wonderful news for those families who have just been waiting for answers for 34 years.
I'm sure it's so surreal for the families that are getting this knowledge right now.
It is. It's surreal, really, for all of us.
Right.
When I was called this afternoon and told, I just froze for a second. I went, what? Yeah. You know, and every longtime Austinite feels that way. We all feel a stake in this case in a way because it did change the city so much.
Judy, you mentioned there have been previous arrests. And Tony, I want to bring you back in and talk about, you know, this is not the first time APD has made a huge announcement in this case. So tell us a little bit about some of those prior arrests and how those cases fell apart through the years.
And when you think about that, it cannot be overstated that one man was on death row. He could have possibly have been executed after being convicted. The first big break in the case really happened in 1999. Police arrested 4 men in connection to the murders. It was celebrated by law enforcement and city leaders. 2 of the men confessed, implicating one another, and they were convicted. Charges against the other 2 were dropped. But then later in the 2000s, everything unraveled. The Court of Criminal Appeals overturned the convictions, and because the confessions were used improperly during the trials, the court said that the convictions had to be overturned. The men were released pending possible retrials, but those never happened, and here's why. New DNA evidence didn't match any of those suspects. And so that really unraveled the case and in many ways put the law enforcement investigation almost back to square one. Again, you can imagine how difficult that was for the families who've been living with this question. Were those the right guys? Were they not the right guys? And even among the law enforcement community, a generation of investigators who have examined this case, there was disagreement about who was ultimately going to be responsible for this. But then now this news coming through genetic DNA testing that a man who had never been identified, never lived in Austin, never worked in Austin, is, according to the police, the ultimate killer in these crimes.
Well, Tony, this was just such a tragedy that touched you, that touched all of us for so many years. But I know this is a question a lot of people have. How confident are police this time that they actually have the right person?
Well, and that is the main purpose for this news conference that's going to be happening on on Monday. They plan to essentially walk us through this investigation and more specifically walk us through in an almost scientific way this DNA evidence that they say places this American serial killer at that crime scene on that night, that they say links him, and they are prepared to tell the public with exact certainty the percent chance that it was in fact this man, and that they are very confident that he in fact once and for all can be deemed the killer of those 4 young women that awful night in Austin history.
So many families turned upside down because of this incident. The families of the victims and the families of the 4 who were held responsible for so long when they were really innocent in the end.
And the law enforcement officers, Mark, who covered this story and were out there that night, it was such a traumatic crime scene that some of them never really got over it.
If you two had to, while we have you here, sum up the news of today's development, if you had to use one word, what word would that be?
You know, I think in journalism, we often overstate things or overstate things too much. But I think in this case, the only word is really shocking. This is a shocking development. And I think ultimately, of course, as we have been expressing, the whole situation is just so tragic. But this development today, shocking, astounding, extraordinary.
I would say also relief. Relief for the community, and especially prayers answered, and relief for those families who have lived with this question haunting them for so many years.
At least there's an answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Their families and their friends all getting this answer that they so desperately were looking for tonight.
Amen. Yep.
Well, Judy Maggio and Tony Plahetsky, thank you both so much for joining us.
And as Tony mentioned, we do expect Austin Police to hold a formal news conference to tell us more about this early next week. Monday, we're hearing.
So as we continue to learn more, we'll bring you updates here on air and online at KVUE.com. And for now, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more news right after this.
KVUE News Daybreak starts with breaking news.
Good Sunday morning. We're following breaking news this morning out of downtown Austin. 2 people shot and killed, another 14 people injured after a shooting.
And Austin police tell us officers have shot and killed the suspected gunman. Right now, at the bottom of your screen, we have listed the phone number for APD's victim services. So if there's someone that you're looking for, a loved one, you can call that number. It is 512-974-5037. Again, if you're looking for a loved one, you need more information, call the Austin Police Department's Victim Services number.
This happened outside of Buford's Bar on 6th and Rio Grande. We've got Tony Plahetsky with us here live now with the very latest information. Tony, you've been following this all morning long. What can you share?
This is a major investigation, and just as we were about to go on the air, we are able to confirm that the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force has now joined the investigation based on preliminary evidence and information authorities have gathered at the scene. So that certainly carries a significance as we learn more about the investigation this morning. I also want to tell you that law enforcement officials confirmed just within the last few minutes that this gunman apparently used both a pistol and an assault rifle in this attack. And right now, authorities are trying to learn everything they can about the gunman. It is also my understanding that they have identified a vehicle in this area, a car that they believe belongs to him. And so, as you can imagine, authorities are also going through that car at this time, trying to determine whether or not that person may have had materials or any sort of information that may give some indication to what his motive was this morning in this bloodshed.
So this is a large-scale investigation. We're talking local and then now federal, right? State, I'm sure, as well. But but more federal as well. As they're trying to piece together information, there's only one suspected gunman at this point. There's nobody else possibly involved.
That is the understanding. Of course, one of the things that authorities are trying to do at this hour is learn whether or not this person may have connections to any other people or any sort of group. They are going through that person's social media, trying to identify that person's social media as well, and also just get a better understanding about who this gunman actually is. Of course, we know that Austin police were able to take down the gunman during the shooting this morning. Again, the FBI initially called in to help process the scene. That is not unusual, but now we've seen the entry of the Joint Terrorism Task Force into this investigation, which of course adds increased weight on what is happening and certainly gives us some indication about the preliminary evidence and the concern about preliminary evidence that authorities have uncovered at the scene.
You saw the map just a moment ago. Again, this happened on West 6th Street, just a couple of blocks east of North Lamar, at a bar called Buford's, just before 2 a.m. this morning. And
KVUE's Jessica Cha is downtown with the latest. Now, Jessica, I'm sure you're familiar with that area, Buford's. It's a very open kind of an atmosphere. It's, you know, it's like a sports bar. Tell us more about what you are learning at this hour, Jessica.
Yeah, Brian and Yvonne. So we're right on 6th Street right now. You can see Buford's a little bit over my shoulder. You can see the heart sign that's right, is right in front of the bar. Now, we can't show you much from where we are because police have blocked off the road. However, like Tony mentioned, the Chief Lisa Davis says that they have called in federal authorities to help out in the investigation. We have FBI who are set up right there, setting up their investigation, looking into things as of right now. But like you mentioned, Yvonne, the alleged shooter is one of the people who are dead. There are 3 people dead and the shooter is one of them. And it happened right outside of Buford's bar this morning. She says when police arrived to the scene, they were faced with the alleged shooter pointing a gun at them. Davis says police then shot and killed the man. There has been some confusion about how many people were hurt, but in the past 30 minutes, we've been able to clarify that 3 people, including the shooter, are dead, and 14 others were shot and taken to the hospital. 3 of those patients have critical injuries. Now, this investigation is in its very early stages.
Our federal partners are here, as well as others, and this will be a scene that will take several hours to process. And so I ask for your patience, but again, we will get as much information as quickly as we can to you.
Mayor Kirk Watson was also at the scene, thanking police and EMS for such a quick response. EMS Chief Robert Luckwitz said medics responded within a minute of the first call. Now, police plan to give us more updates throughout the day, so as we learn more, we'll bring them to you here live on air. Brian and Yvonne.
Jessica, thank you so much.
Yeah, Jessica, while we've got you, just where are you? You're at Republic Square Park. Tell us what's behind you. There's still a heavy police presence there this morning.
Yeah, actually, we're at 6th Street. So we're at 6th Street and Nueces, and we're about a block away from Buford's. It's really hard to see over my shoulder because there's a lot of police cars. There's still vehicles parked on the street, but Buford's is just a block down, and they have the road completely blocked off so far. So we are right here at the scene. There's lots of people walking around trying to take a look. FBI has just set up their investigation on the corner. So we'll keep you updated as we see more things out here.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much. Let's check in now with KVUE's Michael Courier. Michael is live at Dell Seton Hospital in downtown Austin. Michael, what are you seeing there now? Have you been able to speak with anyone, perhaps, about what transpired overnight?
Yeah, Yvonne, good morning. Yeah, behind me is 15th Street, and behind me is the Emergency Center for Dell Seton. And really, since we've been here for the past hour and a half, we've been seeing a lot of what appears to be young adults, about early 20s, or some teenagers that have been leaving this emergency center. And I did speak to some of them, and I spoke to one group in particular, and they were telling me that their family friend that they learned was shot with regards to the shooting that took place in downtown Austin. They told me that they were not there at where the shooting took place, that they woke up and they heard about this and that they wanted to check up on them, learning that their friend was shot. When they went to go see them, they were told that right now it's just family only. So basically it was like time for them to go home, as they were not able to see their friend just yet. So our thoughts are certainly with them and their friend who is right now at Del Seaton. I do want to show you behind me, actually, this is what we've been also seeing, a group of what appear to be young adults as well. Several of them have been gathering here at the main entrance of Del Seaton Medical Center, Emergency Center. We've been seeing them even throughout this past hour and a half, them sitting down there, as we can imagine that they are also wanting to see their loved ones, check up on them. So we do know that some of the patients involved in the shooting were sent here to Del Seaton Medical Center, and then we also know that some were sent to St. David's South Austin and Seton, Maine as well, as we do know that 14 total people were taken to the hospital when it comes to this downtown shooting. But at this time, we've been speaking with some people that were leaving this hospital and saying that their friend was shot and that they aren't able to see them just yet. But again, our thoughts are certainly with them. Back to you guys.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for that update, and how Michael was just mentioning, you can see the sheer obvious concern, panic right now. People are trying to go to the area hospitals to see if they can find and see how their loved one are doing, or their friend might be doing. But that number is very important to call. It's 512-974-5037. It's at the bottom of your screen there. If you need some answers, call APD Victim Services Unit right now.
No doubt there were a lot of people downtown at 2 a.m. That's when most of these establishments close. Tony, we've seen in 2021, 13 people were shot in downtown Austin. That investigation we saw took many, many weeks. What is the step going to be from here forward as we move through the day today?
So this is, of course, a large scene that officials are processing this morning. So that involves everything from trying to get security video, not just from Buford's where this happened, right outside that establishment, but also trying to get images of the person arriving at the scene. So going to all of the area businesses, nearby businesses, asking them for their security so that officials can trace the shooter's movements leading up to this attack. In addition to that, they are also trying to talk to as many people who may have been inside or outside the business about anything that they may have seen or heard in the moments leading up to the attack. But again, based on preliminary information that local law enforcement obtained this morning, they have asked and sought input and further work from the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Again, I just want to reiterate that they believe that both a pistol and an assault rifle may have been used by law enforcement in this attack this morning. So a major investigation, trying to talk to witnesses, trying to gather video, and also trying to learn everything they can quickly, urgently about this gunman and what may have been his or her motivation.
It's all about piecing together the information, and you have to do it in a very, I guess, judicious way. But as far as even the timing, you brought up a good point, Brian. 2 a.m., if we recall ever going out, you know, when you're younger, you go out and you stay out late. That is a very kind of a very busy, kind of tumultuous time. The bars are closing. Everybody's kind of trying to find a ride home. So it's a very busy time, and I'm sure there was more people kind of gathered to maybe exit the bar maybe at that time.
Most critically, what we know happens is that people spill onto the street and onto the sidewalk. And so we're talking about a large volume of people, potentially hundreds. We were talking earlier about the fact that so much attention by local officials has been on the east side of 6th Street, east of Congress Avenue, where again, we had the 2021 mass shooting that killed multiple people, killed one person and injured multiple people at that time. And in the years since, emergency responders have really ramped up their preparedness in that area, focusing on East 6th Street. But officials were quick to note this morning that one of the reasons they were able to so quickly get paramedics and emergency responders to this scene is because because they were already staged in this area near downtown this morning.
And let's be specific on the location. Buford's is right there on West 6th. The shooting, as we know it, did not happen inside the bar. It happened outside on the street there at about 2 a.m. this morning.
That is correct, and involved apparently a person potentially driving by, the shooter driving by using a pistol initially, but then parking in the area as well. And as we speak, authorities have gathered around that vehicle and will go about searching that vehicle, but then possibly then returned quickly to that area using an assault rifle, possibly an AK-47 in this attack. So again, a very major investigation, very, very upsetting to our community and, of course, all of the people who have been directly impacted by this. And I do want to say, as part of the work of investigators this morning, part of what they are also trying to do is actually tragically contact family members and let them know that their loved one has been a victim in this shooting. That is part of the work that police officials are carrying out.
That is just so awful. As far as just also speaking to law enforcement and then just the response, within a minute, EMTs were on the scene responding to potential victims and to these individuals, right?
Exactly. And then one of the things that they did was set up a triage area so that they could very quickly determine who needed to go to what hospital. We know that they have sent patients to a number of different hospitals, 4 of them, I believe. Of course, Del Seaton is the level 1 trauma facility in our city. So the most critical patients would have gone to that facility. But again, unfortunately, there were multiple people at the scene who were pronounced deceased at the scene this morning.
Just back to your news at the top of the hour about the Joint Terrorism Task Force. When a federal agency like this is involved in an investigation, are they essentially the lead? Is that where the information will come from at this point?
This is now being described to me as a collaborative investigation, very much involving the Austin Police Department, but it is not uncommon when we are dealing with a major event like this for the FBI to lend its expertise, which they do in a number of different ways. They have a certain skill set, oftentimes particularly around digital forensics, that they can bring that expertise to this as well. We know, for example, going back many years to 2018 when we had the 21-day package bomb spree, that the FBI worked hand in hand very effectively and very cooperatively with the Austin Police Department. So even though that was some years ago, there is a tradition of those entities working well and effectively together. So initially the FBI was brought in for that purpose, but as officials got into the scene and began examining the evidence and possibly looking at this person's body, maybe what they were wearing, whether or not they had any sort of notations, there was enough evidence and enough information that they saw preliminarily that they then notified the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Again, this person's motive is obviously not clear, abundantly clear to anyone at this time, but it does underscore the significance and the concern that local law enforcement had when they first arrived at the scene, that they wanted to tap into these federal resources.
Real quick, I do want to point out, you said 3 officers shot the gunman. Are those officers okay? Are there any officer injuries at this hour?
We know of no officer injuries at this hour, but it is our preliminary information that those officers, those first responding officers, were met with gunfire and potentially a weapon being pointed at them as this was unfolding. But again, what exactly transpired in those moments is part of the investigation that will span days, weeks, potentially even months. But the urgency, again, is trying to figure out whether or not this person was acting alone.
Senior reporter Tony Pleheski, you'll be with us all morning long. Tony, of course, gathering more information, sharing it with our viewers. Thank you very much for all your work overnight, and we look forward to speaking with you again here in the coming minutes here on Daybreak. Now, this is the first mass shooting on 6th Street. Of course, Tony mentioned that since June of 2021, this is video from 5 years ago. 1 person was killed, 13 others injured on 6th Street. Street in 2021. The city then introduced the Safer 6th Street initiative to reduce violent and dangerous crimes in that area of downtown in the entertainment district. Since then, more halo cameras, more lighting, more staging area for first responders have all taken place there in downtown Austin. Of course, they talked about the response this morning, Yvonne. Less than a minute from the time the shots were fired until the first responders arrived. So I would assume that is how they planned on being able to respond to an event like this, with expediency and being able to be there soon after the event.
Being proactive and having all of this set up obviously did work, you know what I mean? And who knows, they could have also saved some lives by being there so quickly to answer the call and then also just tend to the potential victims.
100%. 3 officers were involved in taking down the gunman. None of those 3 officers, according to our senior reporter, Tony Plahesky, was injured. That's good news for the officers that were there responding. We're tracking, of course, the very latest on this overnight shooting in downtown Austin. You can watch the press conference from about 5 a.m. this morning on our website. That's KVUE Plus. That was the only information we had at the time. We're slowly learning more, Yvonne, but you can download our KVUE Plus app and watch that for free right on your TV.
Yes, and top officials were there. We heard from Mayor Kirk Watson, Police Chief Lisa Davis was there, along with other officials as well, but definitely something that happened, and it's been transpiring all morning long. So keep it here. We're going to be right back, take a quick break, but we're going to continue to gather more information. You can go on air, of course, join us here, or go online as well.